confidence that we have always had as a people is not simply some romantic dream or a proverb in a dusted book that we read just on the 4th of July. It is the idea which founded our nation and has guided our development as people. Confidence in the future has supported everything else: public institutions and private enterprise, our own families, and the very Constitution of the United States. Confidence has defined our course and has served as a link between generations. We always believed in something called progress. We've always had a faith that the days of our children would be better than our own. Our people are losing that faith, not only in government itself, but in the ability as citizens to serve as our ultimate rulers and shapers of our democracy. As a people, we know our past and are proud of it. Our progress has been part of the living history of America, even the world. We always believed that they were part of a great movement of humanity itself called democracy, involved in the search for freedom, and that belief has always strengthened us in our purpose. But just as we are losing our confidence in the future, we are also beginning to close the door on our past. In a nation that was proud of hard work, strong families, close-knit communities, our faith in God, too many of us now tend to worship self-indulgence and consumption. Human identity is no longer defined by what one does, but by what one owns. But we've discovered that owning things and consuming things does not satisfy our longing for meaning. We've learned that piling up material goods cannot fill the emptiness of lives which have no confidence or purpose. The symptoms of this crisis of the American spirit are all around us. For the first time in history of our country, a majority of our people believe that the next 5 years will be worse than the last 5 years. 2/3 of our people do not even vote. The productivity of American worker is actually dropping, and the willingness of Americans to save for the future has fallen below that of all other people in the Western world. As you know, there is a growing disrespect for government, churches, and for schools, the news media, and other institutions. This is not a message of happiness or reassurance, but this is the truth, and it is a warning. These changes did not happen overnight. They've come upon us gradually over the last generation, years that were filled with shocks and tragedy. We were sure that ours was a nation of the ballot, not the bullet, until the murders of John F. Kennedy and Robert Kennedy and Martin Luther King Jr. We were taught that our armies were always invincible and our causes were always just, only to suffer the agony of Vietnam. We respected the presidency as a place of honor until the shock of Watergate. We remember when the phrase "sound as a dollar" was an expression of absolute dependability, until tens of years of inflation began to shrink our dollar and our savings. We began to believe that our nation's resources were limitless until 1973, when we had to face a growing dependence on foreign oil. These wounds are still very deep, and they have never been healed. Look for a way out of this crisis. Our people have turned for the federal government and found it isolated from the mainstream of our nation's life. Washington, D.C. has become an island. The gap between our citizens and our government has never been so wide. The people are looking for honest answers, not easy answers, clear leadership, not false claims and evasiveness and politics as usual. What you see far too often in Washington and elsewhere around the country is a system of government that seems incapable of action. You see a Congress twisted and pulled in every direction by hundreds of well-financed and powerful special interests. You see every extreme position defended to the last vote, almost to the last breath, by one unyielding group or another. You see a balanced and fair approach that demands sacrifice, a little sacrifice from everyone, abandoned like an orphan without support and without friends. Often you see paralysis and stagnation and drift. You don't like it, and neither do I. But what can we do? First of all, we must face the truth, and then we can change our course. We must simply have faith in each other, faith in the ability to govern ourselves, a faith in the future of this nation. Restoring that faith and that confidence to America is now the most important task we face. It is a truth challenge of this generation of Americans. One of the visitors to Camp David last week put it this way: we've got to stop crying and start sweating. Stop talking and start walking. Stop cursing and start praying. The strength we need will not come from the White House, but from every house in America. We know the strength of America. We are strong. We can regain our unity. We can regain our confidence. We are the heirs of generations who survived threats much more powerful and awesome than those that challenge us now. Our fathers and mothers were strong men and women who shaped a new society during the Great Depression, who fought world wars, who carved out a new chapter for peace in the world. We ourselves are the same Americans who just 10 years ago put a man on the moon. We are the generation that decided our society in the pursuit of human rights and equality. We are the generation that will win the war on the energy problem in the process of rebuild the unity and confidence of America. We are at a turning point in our history. There are two paths to choose. One is a path I've warned about tonight, the path that leads to fragmentation of self-interest. Down the road lies a mistaken idea of freedom, the right to grasp for ourselves some advantage over others. That path would be the one of constant conflict between narrow interests ending in chaos and immobility. It is a certain route to failure. All the traditions of our past, all the lessons of our heritage, all the promises of our future point to another path. The path of common purpose and restoration of American values. A path that leads to true freedom for our nation and for ourselves. We can take the first steps down that path as we begin to solve our energy problem.